If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
And we're back. Welcome to Gloved Fist, where we talk boxing. My name is Frank Latirzo, sometimes writer, try to be a full-time observer. Joined by Jack Hirsch, former 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association of America. Jack, we have things to talk about. We had a guest last week you want to touch on. I saw a boxing special over the weekend regarding Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. I have some thoughts on. So why don't we just kick it off with Tyson Fury and Mahmoud?
Yeah, let me just say one thing. I always try to stay straight up at times because if I have on a special outfit, I'd like everyone to see it. But it's hard because there's only so much in the picture. But if you notice the ring, I have on Sugar Ray Robinson. If you notice right here, my shirt today.
I would definitely wear that.
Sugar Ray Robinson. But
the best ever.
Well, one of the best ever. The
best ever.
Okay, I mean, I'm not going to argue about that. Certainly, you can make that argument for sure. I don't automatically give it to anyone.
Well, Jack, just give me real quick. Who would be the guy who's in the conversation over him?
Well, you have Ezzard Charles in the conversation. You have Muhammad Ali in the conversation as the greatest of all time, perhaps pound for pound. It's not an easy thing. Times change. The modern fighters couldn't fight as much as he could. I could put Harry Greb in the conversation. I mean, I have no beef with. He's the consensus #1 fighter, pound for pound. Consensus. That's the way I like to put it. And maybe even mine. I don't do lists and I don't do ratings. I mean, I did it once before for publication. But I did it just because I had to. It's hard. It's like comparing different eras.
I don't do lists. However, when it comes to Robinson, based on my 62 years of following this sport and the films I've seen, and we've never really seen him at his best, I just don't think, when I say he's a consensus best, I just think he is the best overall pure blend of knockout power in both hands and elite boxing using the ring. I just think when you take everything into the equation, I just don't think there's another fighter that scores as high in every area as Robinson.
Okay, I mean, I can go along with that, but I'm not. I'm not really going to debate that. But I'm certainly not objecting to it at all. What you're saying. But what happened this weekend? Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. You know what was my favorite part of all of that? After the fight, when Fury was calling out Joshua, Joshua was magnificent to a point. He didn't go for the bait. He didn't climb in the ring. He didn't accept the challenge. And Joshua's right. He's seen this rodeo with Fury over and over and over. Fury can't avoid fighting guys and then all of a sudden show up and beat on a guy who you described as someone, if you post, I don't necessarily care.
A heavy bag with arms and legs.
Right, exactly. I mean, I give him more respect than that, but I know you were joking around. You respect my guy. If I got tongue-tied more than that. But the point is, they don't have a contract. The way you make a fight is you present the contract. You don't call a guy, I want to fight you, I challenge you. Do you accept my challenge? How do you accept a challenge if you don't know what you're getting paid?
But Jack, they misled the audience because Turkey came in the ring a couple fights before the main event and said there is a big announcement to be made, and both parties are here tonight. And he basically said, the way I took it is I turned him, Wendy, and I said, it looks like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua are going to fight. That's the way he made it sound. And then we see the clumsy attempt afterwards. And I think Joshua could have been a little animated, but that's not who he is. And then again,
no,
right,
but
he's been through the circus before.
Exactly. Send them a contract, send them the numbers, and the numbers probably are going to say and should say 50-50. That's what it should say. But Joshua's lived through Tyson Fury making these crazy demands like 75-25. And if you don't sign the contract by Tuesday night, it goes up to 80-20. He's lived through this nonsense. He doesn't have any patience for it.
The contract's got to be 50-50.
Exactly. He's a fine fighter, past his peak. We respect what he can do in the ring. But let's be honest about it. The guy is a big clown at the end, a big, big clown when it comes to negotiating. I'm not saying Fury doesn't have a good side to him. He seems to have a nice family, and there's some good upside about him as a person. I get all that when you can get past his antics, but that's exactly it. Joshua doesn't deal with the antics, but I love the way Joshua said, I'm the landlord and you're the renter. That was great. But what I don't like about Joshua is this. He says, he's the man in boxing who says this and that. Really, Anthony? Are you out of your mind?
He could have been, but he's not.
Your last 3 fights, it took you 6 rounds to dispose of Jake Paul. Okay, I don't want to be overly critical, but that's a fight that most people thought you should take him out in a couple of rounds. It lasted a bit longer than people expected, but okay, we'll give you a bit of a pass. You got knocked out by Daniel Dubois the fight before that. And the fight before that, you can only manage a decision over James Franklin, the guy who got knocked out by Otama. Your performances, are nothing to rave about the last 3 of them. We understand Joshua's friends were in a horrific accident. A couple of them lost their life. A traumatic experience. We give him time to get over it. Like Eddie Hearn says, let him go away a few weeks, work out in training camp, and then we can talk about signing for a fight. But they're leaning towards signing to fight Deontay Wilder. And by the way, when it comes to Deontay Wilder, he's the only fighter who Joshua, through Eddie Hearn, of course, has ever ducked. When Wilder was in his prime, he tried in the worst way to get a fight against Joshua. And even Joshua put out a crazy demand at one point saying, I'll fight him for $50 million. And then all of a sudden Wilder gets the money up and comes back. He says, guess what, Anthony? We got the money. Let's make the fight now to $50 million. And Joshua still didn't do it when Wilder
I disagree. I think Hearn was in his ear that he should be much better paid than Wilder. I don't think he feared him or ducked him. I'll say this about Joshua.
He was going to be much better paid at that time, Frank. He was.
But Joshua was the bigger name, Jack. So I could see why he wanted the lion's share.
But that was okay with Wilder. That's not the point, Frank. You're giving Joshua a pass now on the Wilder fight.
I'm not. I think Eddie Hearn had the say over him, just like Rock Newman had that same say over Riddick Bowe when it came to Lennox Lewis. And I just think sometimes, like you said, the fighter can overrule him, but it doesn't happen often.
Lennox Lewis wanted to fight with Bowe so bad he was going to overrule his people. He was going to let Bowe even have something like an 80-20 split. That should have been 50-50. Just to get Bowe in the ring. I mean, you got to respect the heck out of Lennox Lewis.
Absolutely. And with you like to talk about guys that left meat on the bone and did not get everything out of their ability. And, Ali is a guy that we kind of both agree that didn't get everything out of his ability. You have to say that about Tyson Fury, too. You have to say that about Tyson Fury. I mean, look, he hadn't fought in 16 months. He looked so heavy. You could just tell the guy just. I mean, I know everybody, they age different. Jerry Quarry, there was a big difference between him in 69 and 73. But Tyson Fury, you could just tell he just doesn't eat, sleep, and drink this. He doesn't keep himself in condition.
73 Quarry was good. He beat Lyle and Shaver.
But I'm saying his body still didn't look like it did a couple years earlier. Yeah, 73 was one of his better years. But with with Fury, I mean, you could just see, okay, yes, I called Mahmoud a heavy bag with arms and legs, and I was just making a point. That was my way of saying he's not skilled. He doesn't really know how to throw a punch. He doesn't get any leverage or snap or weight behind his punches. And he was big. He was the perfect guy for Tyson Fury to look good against. But you can see that Tyson Fury, if he doesn't have to fight his body, he can box and he can move for a big guy. It's not like he's some lump that can't do anything. He has skill, but it's just he needs a rest. He needs the hold. And as he gets older, it's more and more. And it's like, I think he's only like a 6-round guy now.
You know what Tyson Fury reminds me of? What the great Olympic champion marathoner Frank Shorter said, you know, maybe 30 years after he was past his prime, and he wasn't really a competitive run anymore, you know, he's much older. He said, I could do the same workouts I did when I was younger. I just do them slower. Same exact workouts. That's Tyson Fury. Like you just said, the skill remains. He's just as skillful now as he was in his prime. But
yeah, he has to fight his body and the opponent.
Exactly. And he's a massive man. He could beat certain opponents if he leans on them enough, just by the mass that they have to deal with. And both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury are past their best. It's still a compelling fight because it could go either way. I don't know whether you have a decisive opinion who is going to beat who.
I will take Tyson Fury in that fight.
You're taking Tyson Fury, but do you take Tyson Fury with some apprehension? Are you very firm, very confident? Or is are you kind of wavering or wondering?
No, Jack, I don't think there's anything Anthony Joshua could do to change my mind. I think Tyson Fury would get into his head before the fight. I think he would get in the ring as the alpha. And Tyson Fury has ways to beat Anthony Joshua. He doesn't have to knock him out. He can outbox him. He can move him around. He can make an ugly fight. Anthony Joshua basically has to knock Tyson Fury out. And I just don't think
he's going to hit Fury at points, and he's going to hit him very cleanly and flush. And are you confident that Fury could absorb Joshua's power in those situations?
I don't think Joshua gets him out with one shot, Jack. So I think that somehow Fury would find a way, if he was hurt, to wrestle and hold him and make it ugly, and then be able to catch Joshua coming in, you know, with enough jabs and right hands where then he puts some trepidation in Joshua's mind. I'm confident that Fury would beat him. I just think at this stage, Jack, he's still the tougher guy.
I'm going to hold off on my opinion for the simple reason they're not going to fight next. Hearn indicated strongly that now Joshua will fight Deontay Wilder. Now, if you think if people think Fury and Joshua are past their expiration date, well, just look at Joshua and Wilder. That is way past it. Now, Wilder revived his career with the split decision over Derek Chisora. Fair play to Wilder. He did a good job in that fight. He showed tremendous heart, as did Chisora. But, and he survived. He revived his career. And Wilder, he's not nearly what he was, but he has more left than I thought he did. I thought he was a completely shot fighter, my opinion changed. I just think he's a half-shot fighter. How's that, okay?
Jack, I'm not sure who. I agree. I'm not sure who. Joshua and Wilder, I have to really think about that fight. I don't know who I would pick there. I think Fury still beats both. Wilder and Joshua, I really have to think about that because Anthony Joshua just scares me because I just think he gets hit and he could go or lose confidence at any time. I'm just not sure I have confidence in him. But back to Fury for a second. Even though he didn't look great, how many heavyweights in the world right now would you pick to beat him? You have to make a pick.
There are not many good heavyweights. I mean, Moses Itamu, absolutely.
Okay. We know Usyk would beat him.
Usyk would beat him.
That's two. Who else?
This is food for thought. I'm not sure, Frank, but this, not many, but this is food for thought. What happens had Fury gotten the decisions in the Usyk fight? It would have been unfair, but it would not have been outrageous. It wouldn't have
Not
been
the
like,
first fight.
and even the second fight, I would have just called them wrong decisions. Wrong. I wouldn't have called them robberies in either fight. Had Fury gotten the decisions, I would have said, "Nah, this is a bad decision. I don't like it." Usyk won that fight, but I wouldn't have been outraged, figuring this is ridiculous. Blah blah blah. So had Fury gotten those decisions in both fights, our perception of him now might be a little different. He would have taken time off. He would have been a heavyweight champion fighting this fight. So maybe we would be looking at him a little bit differently.
But I still think it's the way he lost both fights, and he lost both fights in the second half of the fight. And that's where the men separate from the boys. And I just think that because of the drugs, the overeating, the alcohol, the time off, all the crazy things he's done, and like you said, he's a big guy. I just think he's just gone to the well too many times to pull it through in a real tight spot against an Usyk, or maybe now an Atalma, and maybe Caballero might even be a problem for him now too.
Yeah. What's easy to forget about Fury, he's a fighter who's had so many close calls. I mean, even in victory, look at the Wilder fight. The first fight, he just barely beat the count. Against Steve Cunningham, a fight I was at ringside in New York before he won the title, he got knocked flat on his back by a cruiserweight. That was a hard knockdown. Against Otto Wallen, he not only came close to losing the fight on a legitimate cut, but in the last round of the Otto Wallen fight, people forget, Wallen was punching him at will in a corner, really beating up on Fury badly in that last round of the fight. And he's just had these like close calls. Of course, the Usyk fight, even though we say, well, he lost 2 decisions, the 8th round of the first fight, Usyk was battering him on the ropes, and it was so close to getting stopped. Had that been Joshua instead of Usyk, Fury goes down. He gets knocked through the ropes, on the ropes or whatever, but he goes down. So if Joshua can
Usyk just seems more confident going against Fury than Joshua, because he never quite leaned on Joshua the way he did with Fury. And I guess because he's a little leery to punch. But Jack, Fury reminds me of Ali in 77 against Evangelista. Not in great shape. Could look good against a guy that really doesn't offer a lot. That comes in but doesn't pressure him.
Shape for this fight. Ali wasn't in shape. You can't make that comparison, Frank.
Jack, Ali's body looked 10 times better than Fury's did. Fury had ass cheeks up on his back.
Fury trained hard for this last fight. Let's give him credit at least for that. He did not enter out of shape. He was in good shape. He's just a big man. Like George Foreman wasn't body beautiful when you saw him fight the Second Coming, but he trained hard.
But he was still hard, though. It's like he didn't get in and his body and his chest didn't bounce up and down. Foreman, he had a little bit of a stomach, but he was still like a brick wall.
That's how
I just think Fury could be in much better conditions this age. He could change his diet. As a runner, there are things he could do. He just leaves so much on the table, and I just think it probably kills him to get in shape, to push it like that anymore, because of his size, because of the up and downs of his career. And look, he looked good against a guy that he was supposed to look good against. But like we said earlier, how many outstanding heavyweights are there? I could think of maybe 3 who I might pick to beat Fury. What does that say, him being 37 years old, carrying all that weight? And he was in a fight the other night that it was not a bell-to-bell fight. He could pick his spots. I mean, you could see Makhachev. He couldn't even throw a punch. He's pushing his punches. Yeah. he should have looked great against that guy. As I said the day before the fight, if I could order a guy to fight Tyson Fury, he'd be big, he'd be a target, he'd be slow, he wouldn't be much of a puncher, he'd be hittable. Makhmudov checked every box. If Fury can't look good against him, who's he going to look good against?
Well, he's not looking to look good against anyone. He's looking to kind of cash out with the mega fight against Anthony Joshua. I fully believe Fury when he says it's Joshua nothing, because the only alternative he has that no other alternative in having a big fight would be Moses Itamu, who he doesn't want any part of. I mean, it's not a mega fight against Itamu. That would be a changing of the guard fight. That would be Marciano and Lewis all over again, a fight like that. He's not beating, Moses Itamu. And I don't think he, would try in that spot. And I don't think the money.
The risk is not, the reward is not worth the risk. No, the money's not there.
Is there possibility, and then if Fabio Wardley defeats Daniel Dubois, he holds a sanctioning body belt. They're both promoted by Frank Warren. That's a possibility for Fury to fight Fabio Wardley, who's an ordinary guy. It's a fight that Fury can win against a Fabio Wardley and maybe even a Daniel Dubois. I don't know what Fury's thought would be, whoever wins between Wardley and Dubois. But
I think Wardley's going to win that fight.
But I'll give you an idea. Fury has to have a keep busy fight and make millions. There's someone like Joe Joyce, who's promoted also by Fury's promoter.
Frazier Clark would be the perfect guy.
Well, Frazier Clark lost.
That's what I'm saying. He'd be the perfect guy, though.
No, you can't. No, you can't put a guy in the undercut. There'd be no interest in that. And all. He's not a name. He's not a big name. At least Joe Joyce has a little bit of a name. You could maybe throw him in. But I don't see that fight being made. It doesn't generate enough money for Fury. It's not a big enough attraction. So
did you see the Frazier Clark Justice Hooney fight?
I did. Hooney out-hustled him now. Hooney did a good job.
I was watching that fight, and that's exactly how Hooney won the fight. He out-hustled him. And it's like you watch these heavyweights today, and none of them are greatly skilled. They're just big and they're powerful. And it's just like you could just see if there's just one guy, and maybe Itama is that guy, that if he's in shape and he can fight for 3 minutes a round and take the initiative, you could beat almost anybody. And you can see why Usyk is so dominant today, because I was watching the Hooney fight with Clark, and I'm saying to myself, Hooney's winning this fight, but I'm not sure he's better. He's just taking the initiative a little bit more. And to me, when I watch, that's all these guys have to do. If somebody could come along and be a busy, big guy. But again, Jack, maybe the heavyweights today are too big and they can't fight like that.
Frank, you're falling into the trap. And people do it when they get older. And I'm getting older, obviously. I'm old already, let alone getting older. Talking about the good old days too much.
I don't plaster things, Jack.
Let me tell you something. During the good old days, people would talk about the way fighters couldn't fight. I remember, having a conversation in the early 1980s with Mike Silver, the author who writes about how pathetic guys were, Hagler, Monzon, not pathetic, but he said if they were fighting in the 30s,
he goes too far.
In the lower, right, they'd be in the lower part of the top 10 contenders. He said the reason why fighters get cut, he told me in 1983, is because the fighters of today don't know how to fight. In the 1970s, we heard about George Foreman. He doesn't know how to fight. He throws these wild roundhouse punches. And I loved what his manager, Dick Sadler's trainer at the time, said. He said, I don't care whether or not George ever learns how to fight. The only thing I care about is to hear the ring announcer say, the winner and still world heavyweight champion, George Foreman. and that's
Jack,
it.
I remember those days. I
You
remember
do
when
remember them.
when Quarry and Lyle and those guys, they were nothing special. Guys like Bill Gallo and Dick Young and Dave Anderson, they never spoke how great these guys were. They said Ali was fighting nothing but bums. I remember Bill Gallo did a show with Larry Merchant. I think it was the greatest heavyweights, and it came down to Ali and Joe Louis, who was the greatest. And Bill Gallo said Joe Louis, and Larry Merchant said why? He goes, I think he fought better people and he proved himself more. We look at that same, realize that's not the case. It's actually the complete opposite. But I just think that, and I felt this back then, I just think that the super big heavyweights, I don't think they're better. I don't think they're better. And they don't have the gas tank. All they can do, if you look at every heavyweight today in the top 10, Jack, all of them can punch. But how many of them can fight? I think they're too big.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue. That's why I'm thinking in terms of Moses Atamo. This Fury Joshua fight could be just holding up his progress. I don't know how much. I get the feeling Usyk really is going to bow out within the year. This might be his last fight against this kickboxer, this MMA guy. I'm not sure that Usyk is going to fight after that. I just got a feeling. He won't, and maybe he'll take one farewell fight.
There's nobody for him to fight either.
Right. And
without taking a big risk.
Fury's never going to fight Atamo. That's never going to happen. If Joshua beats Fury, if Joshua beats Wilder and then Fury, I could see him fighting Atamo for the simple reason the money would be crazy off the charts. And like Tommy Hearns once said, no matter how much money you have, you want more. You want more. If someone has $1 billion and they could get up to $1.5 billion, they're not going to walk away from it so easy. So I think Joshua might stick around if he wins these two fights. But then if he loses to Atamo, which I expect would happen, Atamo, I think, might have a clear path for years to come to dominate the division. The only problem, Frank, is I've been reading that Atamo says he doesn't really like boxing. He just does it well, and that's a bit of a red flag.
But, the money will change him, and he'll get to like it.
But he'll get to be complacent. He'll become too much.
That's what comes afterwards. That's what comes afterwards.
Joshua was riding, when Joshua was unbeaten and riding high, I was hanging out one afternoon with Shane McGuigan. They were in New York with his dad, Barry, during the time when Shane McGuigan was training David Haye at that time, right before Haye lost the fights to Tony Bellew. And I said, I think the problem with your guy, David Haye, he's too much of a businessman now, as much a businessman as he is a fighter. And I remember Shane saying, but that's exactly what Anthony Joshua is. He's as much a businessman as a fighter. And then Joshua started to lose. When you become a businessman, it's not the same.
You can't make that first. There's no doubt about it. But I do think we are on a path to see more fighters retire undefeated. I think Usyk will eventually be one of them. I saw an interview this weekend with Terrence Crawford, and I forget who approached him, but he said, you would fight again for enough money. And Crawford said, well, let me ask you something. He said, who should I fight? He goes, who's left for me to fight? He says, do you know how long I've been fighting? He goes, I've been fighting since I was 7 years old. He goes, that's 31 years. He goes, my body can't take it. He goes, I want a life after this. He goes, I have enough money. He said, there's nothing left for me to prove. There's nobody left to fight. I can see Usyk basically making that decision before Atamo gets too big. And then he bows out undefeated.
And meanwhile, there was a fight of interest on the undercard of Furies, Conor Benn and Regis Prograis, and where Ben won a lopsided decision. No one gave Prograis a chance in this fight. And
he's talking how injured he was before and wanted to pull out.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll give Prograis tremendous credit. He hung tough all 10 rounds. He stood in front of Conor Benn. Conor Benn is a very good fighter. Very good fighter. He's just not elite. I mean, can he beat the Ryan Garcias? Yeah, I mean, I give him a reasonable chance to beat a Ryan Garcia top fighter. You put him in against the Shakur Stevenson, he's got no chance in a fight like that. I mean, but with Ryan Garcia, and I stopped boycotting mentioning these guys' names. He's always
How
on
we going to
social
talk?
media. Everyone wants his opinion. I want to remind everyone he got beaten lopsidedly by Raleigh Romero the fight before last, and Ryan Garcia lacks the intestinal fortitude and the heart to call for a rematch. He doesn't even want a rematch against Raleigh Romero. He's scared he's going to get beaten by Raleigh Romero again. So
You know how I
imagine
feel
that.
about Ryan Garcia, Jack. He's not my favorite, but I will just say this. Conor Benn hit the boxing lottery because we understood that he got paid $15 million by Dana White for a one-fight deal, okay, against a guy who was basically had his feet out the door, retired right
Hey,
after the
Danny,
fight.
wait, Danny. You asked about Rocky Moss. I'm sorry, Danny's going to get off. He says the audience doesn't participate tonight. If it's a question related to it, I'm looking up on the screen. The good old days in boxing. I'm sorry. Not that many comments. That Danny's taking Anthony Joshua in the knockout. Okay, I didn't see that on there. But that's our producer, Brian, our buddy. He can't put everything up.
What I was going to say is that Conor Benn got $15 million for basically a sparring session where he was not in trouble, and he's probably going to land a big fight, maybe with Ryan Garcia off of that. So Conor Benn had the best night. He got paid the most for having to do the least. He's going to parlay it into another big fight. It might be Ryan Garcia. I would pull for Conor Benn to win that fight, Jack, but I don't know if he would. He didn't impress me at all the other night.
Okay, I was told by someone well connected in the boxing business that his sources in England told him Conor Benn wasn't getting 15 million. He was getting more like 8-9 million or thereabouts for this one fight. But
he did well.
It can't be a one-fight deal. It never made sense. Zuffa Boxing, Dana White wouldn't sign him for one fight and then let him go. He could go back to matchroom boxing. There's more to it than that. I'm certain
that could be. But Jack, even if he got $9 million for that,
right? Exactly.
That's the lottery.
I'm sure there are more fights, and I'm sure Dana White's going to see. Wait a second, Conor Benn's not that big an attraction. Oh, there's Michael Gott. He's from England, actually. I hope we're done talking about Tyson Fury, Michael. There, but Conor Benn. I mean, some guys are charismatic, and some guys in the news enough. If you have Ryan Garcia fight Conor Benn, that would be considered a major fight now. I like it or not.
In 2026, sadly, it is.
It's an entertainment business. That's what boxing is. I'm coming around to accepting it. I mean, don't misunderstand me. I'm not going to buy a pay-per-view show unless I'm getting really good fights. But, Pacquiao and Mayweather, it's entertainment, Frank. It's easy for me to say, what a joke, I'm not going to get it, but I'm interested in it.
If I don't have to pay for it, I'll watch it.
You'll watch Pacquiao and Mayweather, you would watch that over Ohio State and Michigan if Ohio State and Michigan was going on, and you're a big college football fan. You would turn to Pacquiao and Mayweather. You wouldn't turn
just to see the sideshow. I would. Now, Ohio State and Michigan, I'm going to see at least play probably 10 more times in my life. So yes, I would probably see that just for the sideshow, and I want to see what happens. But like as far as having any big interest in it, no.
Did you see what Money Mayweather said? Even if he loses to Pacquiao, he has to be considered unbeaten. So he's
not if it's a fight. Not if it's an official fight, and they're only 2 years apart. But he can say at my best, nobody can beat me. He still got over on that because he went through his prime and did not get defeated.
Yeah, I saw your post the other day, and normally your posts I'll agree with more often than not, and if I disagree, I don't think that they're so off base. I'll just disagree. I think you had a post where you were like rambling a bit and were a bit off base. I mean, like for example, the last round of the Ali Norton fight, Ali didn't win that round clearly. I know all three
Oh,
judges.
Jack, he clearly won the round. Norton didn't throw any punches.
No, Ali
He
was
clearly won that round.
Ali was throwing a bunch of jabs that really were ineffective. They were just missing, coming short, but he
And
threw
what
a
did
lot
Norton
of them.
do?
And
What did
was
Norton
doing
do?
Nothing. Agreed completely. Norton was doing nothing but following him during that 2 minutes and 40 seconds of the round.
Oh, that's the
then
one
the
we were
last-
talking. I was talking about who had they are two of the more controversial fights in recent history, and was who had the better case for being not getting the decision, being upset, Norton or Hagler? And I think that Norton had a better case.
Norton had a better case. I agree. And also the Mayweather-Castillo first fight. I mean, the way it made it.
Harold
Castillo
Letterman had
really-
4 points for Castillo, Jack. That's your boy, Harold Letterman. 4
Right.
points, not one or two, 4.
Yeah, I hear you. Ben Dowdy, a guy I greatly respect. I saw him once come and he thought Mayweather won the fight. I had it scored a draw. Which would have blemished Mayweather's record. It could have gone either way. So it wasn't a robbery.
Jack, I trust my eye, and I remember watching that fight live. And at that time, I was a Mayweather fan. And I turned to my wife at the time and I said, HBO's got a problem here. I said, because if this guy's name was Merriweather, not Mayweather, he didn't win this fight. They know it. They were sullen before the decision was announced. Harold Letterman came on. He had Mayweather losing by 4 points. That's a clear loss. I don't think that was anything close. I don't think there was any case at all for Mayweather in that fight. Second fight, yes.
Harold Letterman was one of my best friends, outstanding boxing judge, but he could be off from time to time, like any judge.
Everybody can be off.
He had John Molina getting the decision over Oscar De La Hoya. You know, he had Larry Holmes getting the decision over Maurice Harris. Okay, a fight that from ringside. You know, most of us
Tuesday night fight.
Ahead. Yeah, so whatever. So,
but Jack, you and Ben are the only guys I know that think there's even an argument regarding that fight, as far as like it wasn't a bad decision.
But but the sentiment from most people is going to be going against Mayweather. The same thing you mentioned, Hagler Leonard. You see these polls. Someone puts up on social media, who do you think really won the fight? Now, I agree with you. Leonard deserved the decision. Like, I think it was 7 rounds to 5, but Leonard deserved the decision. But most of the people answering the question saying they think Hagler won the fight. That doesn't make it, right. Because the majority admire Hagler more at this stage of the game. They like his workmanlike attitude. He's actually, good question to you, Frank. Right now, who's become more charismatic, Hagler or Leonard? That's an interesting question.
When somebody's passed, Jack, they're always going to get the benefit of the doubt. So Hagler may be now because he's passed. When Leonard passes, it'll go way back. Oh, yes. Yes. Hagler, and because Hagler fans are very boisterous about how they feel about that, and because Leonard didn't beat him up, and that's another case I made in that post. I said Ali actually beat up Norton and hurt Norton more than Leonard did Hagler.
Beat up Norton?
Jack, he staggered him 3 or 4 times in that fight. Go back and look at the later rounds.
He hit him. I remember, what was it, the 11th round, maybe it was, or the 12th. Ali hit him a series of really good right hands, but he didn't stagger him.
He staggered him a few. I mean, he wasn't close to going down, but you could tell he was rocked and he was shook. Something Leonard never did to Hagler. But at the same time, Norton got in more good licks on Ali than Hagler did Leonard. But I broke it down this way. I said when I was at both fights, when the Leonard Hagler fight ended, there was not a doubt in my mind, not one doubt in my mind. Leonard won. When Ali and Norton ended, I thought Ali pulled it out. But I know at that time the Senate was going against him, and it was common to say whoever went the distance with him got shafted. They even tried to say that Ernie Shavers deserved the decision, and there was no case for that. I think Ali won one decision that he didn't deserve, and that was against Jimmy Young, but they were never going to give Young the title because of him ducking out of the ring. But if you go by points on that fight, Jimmy Young landed more punches and won more rounds than Ali. I think I had it 7-6-2, and that was giving Ali a lot of breaks.
If you duck your head out the ring, that's reason enough.
He should have been disqualified.
Yeah, but
and he did it 4 times.
Yeah, but those rounds should have been scored for Ali. Well, I mean, that's when a fighter ducks his head out of the ring to deliberately avoid getting hit. You know what I counted as in my own head, even though the ref doesn't call it a knockdown? I counted as if the guy got hit with a left hook and staggered across the ring. It carries that type of weight for me.
Or took a knee.
Well, deliberately took a knee not to get hit, even though it wasn't called a knockdown. You see what happens there. I went to a press conference, Frank, last week. What was it? Last Wednesday, I think it was. And Boots Ennis, Xander Zayas. Okay, I went to the Barclays Center, the press conference, where they're going to be fighting on June 27th. Good fight, and good rebound.
2 guys on the way up in their prime.
This is the fight for Boots that could finally put him on the map, the coming out fight. Like, it has to do for him what the Teofimo Lopez fight did for Shakur Stevenson. But then again, you never know the follow-up because we don't know whether Shakur is going to be able to get a high-profile opponent to follow this up. But Shakur Stevenson at least is going to be on everyone's short list of the best pound-for-pound fighters based on the Lopez fight. Boots wins this fight, and if he wins it in style, okay, it's intriguing. He becomes a big name.
I disagree with you to a point. If Boots wins this style and he wins this fight in style and he totally dominates Zayas, he will not get credit because people will go back and say, well, we don't know how good Zayas was. He was another meaty creation, good looking guy, nice record, promoted well, had the right fights. If Boots beats him easy, he won't get credit. But if it's a Leonard Hearns type fight and Boots gets tested and comes back and wins, then he'll get credit. If you win too easy today, it's not good. We see that with Crawford and Spence, all the revisionist history. You know, guys like your buddy Ben say, you know, well, Boots was damaged going in, or Spence was damaged going in, but yet it was what, a 6-5 underdog, 7-5 underdog. That was it. A lot of people, they were split on who they were picking. If you win too easy, Jack, it's not good. It's better to be in a dog fight and then pull it out.
Yeah, well, we talk about the first Leonard Hearns fight. When Leonard hurt Hearns in the 6th round, had he taken Hearns out, then knocked him out, we wouldn't be looking at it as a super fight. We'd be looking at Hearns as being overhyped. And Leonard wouldn't get the credit that he
exactly. But Hearns came back and showed he belonged.
But Zayas doesn't have that pedigree. It depends how Boots looks. Boots is a solid favorite in this fight. He's going to go in as around 4-1 or something like that. But Zayas is given an outside chance of winning, actually, an outside chance, because he's unbeaten. He has a pedigree. He has Bad Bunny. And most of all, Zayas is the one who called Boots out in this fight. He really wants this fight. And
I like that.
A lot. He has no fear of Boots. He has no fear of Boots. And Boots might be one-dimensional, all offense, but very sloppy defensively. And if Zayas starts, connecting, we don't know whether Boots might unravel or not. There's that element of doubt. I don't
Yeah,
think
that's why Boots is going to. That's exactly why Boots is going to win the fight, because they're both hittable. But Boots is just better at everything, and it's not just a little bit better. He's just better. There's nothing in the ring that Zayas does better than Boots. They're both hittable. I think Zayas has everything to gain, and if he won the fight, it would be monumental for his career. I think if Boots wins the fight and he struggles, it doesn't help him. And if he blows him out, it doesn't help him. He needs Zayas to show that he's the real deal, but still win.
And if Boots takes care of business, of course, he has a ready-made fight if they could get through the legalities with Virgil Ortiz. That was the fight that originally had to take place. And there would have been people picking Virgil Ortiz to beat Boots. That's the thing about it.
And they would pick him to beat Zayas too, I think. If Zayas was fighting Ortiz, who would you pick?
Ortiz.
Okay.
I'm picking Boots to stop Zayas. Okay? Is he going to just walk through him from the opening bell? No, I think in the middle rounds.
Right. It'll be competitive early.
And I think Zayas is going to have some moments of success. I think he will. And you never know. Maybe he'll even drop Boots early in the fight, surprise him. But Boots' firepower and everything he brings to the ring, I think by the 5th round, Zayas is really getting beaten up badly, by about that point. In about 7 rounds, I kind of like Boots in that fight.
So let's just say Boots stops him in 7, Jack. How much credit's he getting? They're going to say, who Zayas beat? Who Zayas beat?
I think a lot of credit because the Barclays Center is going to be sold out. And Boots is a Philadelphia fighter. I wonder whether Boots can attract the same crowd, and I mean this in a good way, that Tank Davis was doing. Tank Davis was sold out to Barclays. He was a major attraction, but of course we know his troubles he's had outside of the ring.
Right.
That stymied his career. But I wonder, can Boots get that same type following where the average person, knows on the news while Boots is fighting? But I'm going to tell you this, I mentioned Crawford before. I mean, Crawford, he's fully entitled to retire. He made the right decision. He's fought long enough. No criticism at all. But of course, he's going to hear some talk. Well, why don't you come out of retirement and fight Boots? He is going to hear some of that talk. He doesn't hear
He'll never bite. He'll never bite.
Like Sebastian Fundora and Ryan Garcia both was saying, oh, we could beat Crawford, blah, blah, blah. No one takes those two guys seriously. Crawford beats both of them on the same night. And if he wants to step it up really big time, I wonder whether the two of them last the 12 rounds combined if Crawford was going to go all out from the beginning. I kind of feel they would maybe as a tag team. That's funny, Frank. Boxing, I just thought of that. You put Crawford in the ring in his prime against Ryan Garcia and Sebastian Fundora. They can tag off to one another and come in the ring when they're getting beaten up and Crawford has no one to tag to. That would be a fun fight.
Well, Garcia better go first because after Garcia gets a couple rounds of boost, he'll nenever tag back in. Fundora will be stuck fighting him by himself.
But there's your gimmick, like in wrestling for boxing. Fundora has enough. He wants to tag off to Garcia.
You know what? It's probably not that far off with these exhibitions.
What?
But Jack, I like seeing guys get out on top with their health, their wealth, and their respect, like Boots. Just like I remember Lennox Lewis retired. Everybody ripped him because, well, he should give Klitschko another rematch. And I said, no, he shouldn't. He took Klitschko on the worst night of his career. He never was heavier than he was for the Klitschko fight. They both took it on like 2 weeks' notice. And it's like Klitschko, Vitaly, that is, was the perceived threat to him and his title reign. And he beat the top guy going out on his worst night. That would be like Usyk fighting a Talma in a year and beating him, but not looking good doing it, but still winning. Lewis realized after that Klitschko fight that A, Klitschko was better than he thought, and B, he realized he just might not have it in him to train and to do what's necessary to beat him more convincingly in a rematch. Just like Rocky Marciano went away to camp for a couple of weeks to fight Johansson and realized he was cutting corners and pulled out.
You know, the timing of retirement is so important because if you, no matter how great a fighter you are, if you don't time it at the right time, you're going to be, they're going to think you ducked the guy. For example, we go back to Rocky Marciano. He retired before Sonny Liston could really come on.
Was even ranked. Yes.
Right. If Sonny Liston was the #1 contender, he couldn't retire. Everyone would have thought he was ducking Liston. Even Floyd Patterson. If Patterson was solidly at #1 Olympic champion, Marciano would have been forced to fight him. You know, he couldn't have retired at that point. And Usyk is falling under that danger. If he hangs around longer, Otama's going to be ready to fight him. And then Usyk can't retire without people accusing him of ducking Otama. Same thing with Crawford. If he hung around longer, and let's say he was still active, didn't announce his retirement, and Boots stops Zayas and then calls Crawford out, there'd be a lot of people wanting to see Boots fight Crawford. And it would have been hard for Crawford to retire at that point without being accused of ducking, you know, Boots.
I agree with that, but I also predict that Usyk is secure enough and enough of a man to know what he's done, where I don't think he'll be bothered if they say you avoided a Talma, because they could say that, you know, the fans can always say whatever they want, and we know people do that. We see it every day.
Yeah, but if you haven't announced your retirement and it's the fight everybody wants to see, then that's it's hard to back out of it without being accused of ducking a guy. Michael Gotz's Bare Knuckle, the oldest form of boxing, became associated with unlicensed fights. Should it be allowed mainstream coverage after popularity grown with young people in the U.S.? Yeah, I mean, why not? We had Michael Paulie Malignaggi on the show. He was a former, let's call him world champion in this day and age, former world champion in regular boxing, and now he's on the bare knuckle circuit, Paulie. He has bare knuckle fights, and he says bare knuckle boxing is safer than boxing with the gloves on. You know, we have the UFC that some people considered barbarian when they first started it. It's more popular than boxing, the UFC. Even though
in the United States, not worldwide, in the United States, even though nothing compares to a mega boxing match that's bigger than anything in the UFC. We have mixed martial arts, which Frank, you know, like it's a part of and all. And yeah, so why not allow the bare knuckle boxing unless it's proven to be more dangerous than the other martial art forms? And the UFC, Jack, they have curtailed some of the rules, so it's not quite as barbaric as it was in the early 90s when it just came on the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, before you could do everything except groin strikes. Today, there are elbows and some knees, 6 o'clock to 12 o'clock that are not permitted. So, but look, boxing, when it's at its best, and like you say, there's a big fight, it doesn't get any better than that. Speaking of which, there's a channel called Viceland, and they do all kind of crazy things with sports, with detective things, and they cover a lot of stuff. And they had this thing called The Verdict, and it was Ali versus Tyson, and they had a panel.
I don't know what happened. I missed that show. I forgot about it, Frank.
I didn't know it, Jack. I found it yesterday that I was flipping through the channels to kill some time. They had Adnan Burke, who used to be on ESPN, Teddy Atlas, Lou DiBella, Tim Smith, Mark Kriegel, Tony Page, Jerry Cooney, Bob Costas, Ross Greenberg, June Lee, and Pete Rosenberg. Now, at the end of the day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys made picks. Russo, DeBella, Rosenberg, Verk, Page, Christian, Kriegel, Costas, and Atlas made picks. I'm sorry, 9 guys made picks. And they all picked Ali, but your buddy, Mark Kriegel, rode the fence and said, well, Tyson, it's not inconceivable that Tyson could get him in 3 rounds, but if it goes longer than 3 rounds, then of course Ali wins. And Jack, I gotta be honest. Other than Teddy Atlas and Tony Page, some of the things that were said during that I felt were embarrassing. And they had this other guy on who makes boxing videos. His name is David Christian, and they introduced him as David Christian is a martial arts influencer and analyst. What the hell is that? And why is he talking about boxing? The guy has a great voice. I've seen his tapes, and he hypnotizes people the way he talks to guy. I'm not going to say he's clueless, but he doesn't bring a lot to the table. And I was watching that, and I was so frustrated. Other than Atlas and Page, nobody else brought much to the table.
Yeah, you got to give Kriegel a pass on hedging on what would happen with Ali and Tyson, because Kriegel came out not long ago with a book on Tyson. Okay, I haven't seen it, but I heard it's quite good.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you see, he came right. And it's gotten good reviews. This was about 6 months to a year ago. So what's he really going to say? I mean, is he going to say, "Oh yeah, I think Ali would have beaten Tyson"? But just the idea with him hedging, and your question who was put on the panel. And speaking of Kriegel, who I think is a good guy, and I think he's a knowledgeable guy. Don't misunderstand me. I have a good opinion of Mark Kriegel. When Madison Square Garden had a 50th anniversary special show of the first Ali Frazier fight, they didn't reach out to guys like you and I. They reached out who were there. Other people I know who were there, like Don Majeski. They reached out to Mark Kriegel, who wasn't at the fight but lived in the neighborhood, to talk about it. And that's the mentality of some of, the executives. I mean, and the people they had on the panel, like I said, I would have easily guessed who were the 2 who came up with sensible analysis. And yeah, I would have said Teddy Atlas and Tony Page.
Tony, they were boxing guys.
But even Teddy Atlas is a bit compromised in that situation because he does have a Tyson bias.
He goes against him a little bit and says he only had 5 real fights and he lost all of them. And we both know that's not honest.
No. I mean, we don't. A little bit of he has a Tyson bias, a bit on the negative side, and it's what it is. But some people, conversely, have a bias on the positive side, very much so. So should we disqualify their opinions?
But who was it that said? Oh, I think it was Lou DeBell that said, "Well, if Joe Frazier could knock down Muhammad Ali with a left hook, Mike Tyson certainly could." No, not really, Lou, because they go about it completely different. Frazier put on much more bell-to-bell pressure. He cut the ring off better. He was harder to tie up. He fought better on the inside. That's how he got to land those shots. Tyson doesn't fight like that. And I always look for the analysis of it. And just, again, Tony Page didn't embarrass himself at all. Teddy, I thought, was pretty much down the middle. But the other guys, I mean, you could tell they had some Ali bias, but their breakdown just were terrible.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to revisit this next week, and I'll give you a question to think about: the over and under. If Tyson fought Ali, how many fights would it take for Tyson? Well, next week we have James Smitty Smith, who has his own podcast, In This Corner, that he co-hosts with Lee Groves, and he's the first announcer ever to announce the live show on the internet, Smitty, amongst other things. And he's been and there's
I know of him. I've never met him, but I know of him.
Right. He's going to be our guest next week. Okay, good.
Okay, great.
Tonight, Frank. Take care.
All right, Jack. See you next week.